Hey everyone, welcome to a new video. I hope you had a great day. Let's take a look at some new malicious compliance stories, shall we? The first story is called Shouldn't Fire Your Best Employee. Hospitality isn't known for its amazing personalities, but no one could take the cake off a boss and his wife that I worked for about a decade ago. They took over a beautiful pub/restaurant in a mountain range that the locals loved to visit. It would have taken almost no effort at all to have a very successful business, as there was no real competition and the area was very affluent. On weekends there was always a queue of customers. Unfortunately for all the staff and the locals mentioned, the owners were on a massive ego trip. They have moved from the city to set up this restaurant as a way to settle down, which they clearly were not capable of in the slightest. The wife boss will now be known as Karen. They were so highly strung that the hairs would stand up on the back of your neck when they came into the building. I learned to expect that every word that came out of their mouths to be either barking orders or criticizing even the pettiest of details. I kid you not, Karen yelled at me once because I hadn't turned all the coffee cup handles so that they were pointing in the same direction. I started working there part-time and managed to put up with their antics much better than the countless other part-timers that came and went. For one, I was content to just do whatever they told me, as deep down I knew it would come back to bite them in the end. Being their longest staff member, after just 4 months, I got the best pick of shifts. Also, by being one of the only fully trained members of staff, I never really worked directly with them, as I would cover the shifts on their days off. Every day they seemed to be getting more and more stressed and increased their micromanaging. It came to the point that they decided to just install cameras everywhere so they could sit at home and monitor the staff. I would get calls multiple times an hour telling me things like one of the tables needed to be cleared, the customers had barely left, or that I was standing and talking to a local too long and should be sweeping or something. Unfortunately, this kind of corporate McDonald's style ethos didn't really work when the majority of your customers were regulars who wanted a coffee, a meal and a 10-minute chat with a friendly face. One thing they were really hung up on was the till. Such was their paranoia about the till that only the bosses, myself and one other girl named Jessica could operate it no matter what or how busy we were, which of course led to multiple situations of inconvenience. Also, we had to count out the till several times a day and deposit the money in the safe, even if we had only made $20. After a particularly busy day, I was closing and had received new instructions just that day from Karen that from now on we would keep all big denominations, $50 or more, hidden under the main compartment of the till. From the moment she said it, I knew it was another nitpicky rule that she'd forget about straight away. So of course, what else should I do but follow orders? The next morning, when I finally checked my phone around 10 AM, I saw that I had 10 missed calls from work, and also worryingly from Jessica, the other staff member who I got on with really well. I called Jessica first to hear her tell me that Karen had come in and counted the till, and when she couldn't find $50, accused Jessica of stealing it and fired her on the spot. Jessica had called me from the car park to say goodbye. And while I immediately knew what happened and told her about it, as well as saying sorry to her, we were both glad she didn't have to work in that nightmare place anymore. I was angry that the owners had treated Jessica like that. I knew they were crazy, but to fire someone accusing them of stealing was a new low. However, I did get great satisfaction from calling them and putting on my best facade of nonplussed. The conversation went like this. I have just fired Jessica as she was caught stealing. The till is missing $50. I still couldn't believe that they didn't ask me first, as I was the last one to actually count the money the night before. Why did they even think it was Jessica and not me? They were completely nuts. I said in my best malicious compliance voice, "Oh, that's weird. I definitely counted it correctly and put all the money just as you told me with the $50 notes in the bottom compartment, as you explained just yesterday." The following pause brought me great glee, as I could practically hear the buzzing in Karen's head as she opened the till and found the missing $50 note right where it should be. Having just fired the second longest staff member they had, me still being the first, meant they had to work all of Jessica's shifts before we could hire and train another, saying goodbye to all of the time off for weeks. Also, I made sure to tell our regular customers who took the time to get to know the staff by name what had happened when they asked where lovely Jessica had gone. Many stopped coming in, unless it was my shift having seen the real personalities of the bosses, and they tipped the staff more too. I stayed there for a short while longer and was happy to hear that Jessica had found a job in a much nicer cafe soon after leaving. I left after I had saved up money to go traveling and found out that the restaurant closed just a few weeks later. I don't think they even lasted a year total. Whatever they did next, I do hope it didn't involve employing anyone else, as they definitely do not have the personalities to manage staff. The next story is called Office Politics. Early last year I started working as a contractor, supporting one of the many government agencies here in the US. My job description was pretty simple: act as an administrative support for a particular federal employee. In effect, I'm a glorified secretary. I push papers, schedule and file things, and act as a gopher whenever necessary. The job wasn't particularly difficult, but it really helped that the Fed and I got along like a house on fire. The problem is, the Fed I work for doesn't get along with another Fed who works in the same office. Their job descriptions have nothing to do with each other, and there is really very little need for them to interact with each other. But for some reason which I still don't know, there was bad blood between them. Q 2020. Our office went from a steady workload to a maximum telework position, and just like that, there was no work for the contractors to do. No more pushing papers, no more scheduling or filing things, and no more acting as a goofer. Just long days sitting in my cubicle surfing the web on my phone. The Fed I support decides that we will take the opportunity to clean out 2 offices in another building that haven't been used for years, so they can be repurposed. They sat idle for years because no one wanted to clean them. These rooms are filthy, with electronics that were old in the 90s, old break room food, cables everywhere, the works. As we get started, I'm happy to be there, as cleaning these rooms means I finally have something to do. Better yet, the Fed I worked for was right there with me, elbow deep in the garbage. After the first day, we have made solid progress on one of the rooms, but it took 8 hours of hard labor to get there. I go back to my cubicle to gather my things to go home and find the other Fed waiting for me. Where have you been all day? I've been in the other building helping my Fed clean out a room. That's not in your job description. You don't need to be helping this person do that. I really don't mind. It's better than sitting around on the government's dime doing nothing. And besides, my job is to support this person. If they want me to help clean out a room, I'm more than happy to help. No, you can't be doing that. If it's not in your job description, then it's not your job. This Fed should know better than to take advantage of your good nature and make you do work that you weren't hired for. I'm sorry, you're going to have to take that up with my Fed. As far as I know, my job is to support this person in whatever way they need, including physical labor. We'll see about that. The next day, my Fed and I go back to the other building to work. We are 10 minutes into cleaning when the other Fed shows up with a member of the union in tow. The Fed then rips into my Fed for forcing me to do work outside of my scope of duties and brought the union representative to back up this opinion. The funny thing was, the union rep had no idea what he was doing there. Neither my Fed nor I are members of the union, and his opinion really had nothing to do with the situation. The other Fed brought him in to use as a prop. To his credit, he seemed to know that, because he just gave us an uncomfortable shrug with a look like, I have no idea why I'm here either, and said nothing at all. Rather than fighting about it, my Fed surrenders gracefully, and the 2 of us reluctantly leave the uncleaned rooms behind. A week later, I was sent home after guidance came down saying that since there was no work being done, contractors were no longer needed to support the Feds on staff until everything is back to normal. I sat home for about a day before getting a call from my company telling me another division needed me. This would be a permanent change of office, and as long as I didn't mind, I could start immediately. Fast forward several months to November. I'm happily working away in my new office when the Fed who had a problem with my helping clean the rooms comes in to speak with some of the employees in my new office. This person is absolutely livid because the 2 rooms had finally been reassigned but still needed to be cleaned before they could be turned over to their new owners. This Fed was called into work specifically to clean the rooms, despite still being on maximum telework status because there was no one else they could call. All of the contractors who had supported them had already been reassigned, and there was nothing in this person's job description that said they couldn't be assigned this particular duty. Apparently, it took almost 2 weeks of back-breaking labor to clean out the rooms until they were good enough to transfer. The best part was, this person seems to have completely forgotten what part I had to play in this little drama. When they came to my office to complain about the injustice of it all to anyone who would listen, they stood right in front of my desk to do so. I got to hear every word of the story right from the horse's mouth. The last story is called Can't Be on the Phone. I work as a direct support person. My company has some serious hate towards cell phones. They used to fire people on the spot if they are caught with one. Because of 2020, my company has been suffering badly. They lost about 40% of the staff and roughly half oversights. So they are basically hiring pretty much anyone and throw overtime at anyone who asks for it, but they still are really struggling. It got to the point where they have to have someone pick clients up and bring them to other clients' places because they don't have enough staffs to cover everyone. I work with a large number of clients and I'm pretty much capable of doing almost anything that supervisors can do. I'm also the one who has trained many other employees, so they often come to me before they go to the supervisor. Last week I was working and I was bored out of my skull as usual. I was working with this client who doesn't want to do much besides watching TV or playing on his tablet all day, so I was on my phone. One of the managers walked in and sneaked up to me and tapped me on the shoulder. I turned to look at the manager and casually say hi. The manager then acted like I was surprised and tried to hide the fact I was using a phone. I was casually holding it as the manager gave me a long lecture. I told the manager I work 16 hours a day and took on many tasks that I don't have to, just to give the supervisor some breathing space. I sure am going to use my phone when there's nothing else to do. The manager then smirks and told me to put my phone away and told me I'd have to come down to the office sometime in the next few days. I remind the manager of how bad some employees were, hours late every day, literally sleeping on the job, etc., and didn't got fired. So it is really unfair of them to get all up in arms about me being on the phone. I was told if I can stay off the phone, then this isn't the right job for me. I went and grabbed my stuff, then clocked out. The manager was jumping all over the place, screaming about how I can't abandon my clients. I told the manager if I wasn't being nitpicked for a tiny thing that doesn't affect anyone, we'd not be in this jam. The manager begged me to stay for just a bit so someone can come and take over. I said no. I got in the car and left, with my manager standing there watching me dumbstruck. A bit over an hour later, a supervisor contacted me and apologized for what happened. I was informed that they really need me around, and from now on, if anyone comes in, as long as I put the phone away, no one will say a word. Since I like my supervisor and am friends with many employees, I don't want to make things harder on them, and I also need money. So I reluctantly agreed to come back the next day. But if I ever hear anything about me being on the phone again, I'm gone. Just a few hours ago, the manager came in and saw me on the phone. I just put it in my pocket and got up. We had a short conversation about a work issue. Not a single word about the phone was mentioned. Thanks for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please leave a like. It really helps in the algorithm. I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.